You thought you saw the last of me, didn't you? Naughty, naughty! Hi guys, it's me, Stark Reality here, and I thought I would come right out of the gate and let you know that yes, you read the title correctly. This is a follow-up video to one that's close to my heart. It's close to a lot of your hearts, especially mine. Many people come up to me and have said, Stark, where have you been? It's been so long since we've seen you, since we've heard from you, since you've created any form of actual art, which I find offensive because I have been managing to make some art during all of the world crises going on right now, but some people aren't satisfied. Some people need to see this face, hear this voice, and feel this presence right up in their soul. I'm returning to my roots. I'm returning to what made me, a tea video. Now, this isn't going to be like the old tea video. This isn't like any other tea video. This is a follow-up. This is a sequel. And like with any sequel, it's going to be bigger, better, shinier, more impactful, and maybe a little longer. Maybe. Now, people, it's been a rough ride. 2020 was not the year we thought it would be. 2021 is slowly crawling towards some form of reality, whether it be Stark or other. I was gone for a long time. I didn't create the art that I wanted to create during 2020. I'm starting to get back into it. I wanted to make a plethora of videos, but as most people know, it was not the time. Society was crumbling around us, and yes, although I had a lot more of what people would call free time to make videos, I wasn't spiritually free. Yes, I was no longer employed. Yes, I would sleep all day, eat food, and get money from the government for doing absolutely nothing, but my soul was trapped, as were many other people's, and when your soul is trapped, it's hard to find the motivation. It's hard to want to create art, to sit down with the camera, to sit down with the pen, and create something. I have been keeping up with art. I've been making little vignettes. I've been making photos. I've been writing some poetry every now and then, but the soul, the spirit, the mental state of the world right now, of society, had kept me down. But now, it's a new year, and I don't want to sit on my hands, or my feet, honestly, or my posterior, that too. I want to stand. I want to stand and create art again. I want to make a video. And I thought, tea. It's simple. It's honest. It's true. All of us at one period of time have been offered it. Maybe we've been lucky enough to make some tea. Maybe you've watched my video and you've been inspired to make your own tea videos. I don't know. But tea is a historical thing. It's a spiritual thing. It's a personhood in its own right. We have all at one period in our life experienced tea being offered. We have consumed it. We have made it. Tea is something that I think even the most poorest man, to the king or queen of England or duke, don't know, have experienced some variation of it. I thought I would crawl out of my existential despair and make some tea. Now for this video, I'm going to be using my old companion, my oldest friend, well, not oldest, but definitely someone or something that has been there for me every single morning when I wake up, every single day when I crawl out of my bed and slither into the kitchen. The kettle. This is the same kettle you saw in tea, but it's been a few years. It's been, well, as we all have, it has aged. It has been a victim of time. Time is the fire in which we all burn. Time is a stalker, a creature that hunts us down until we weaken at the knees and fall, and then it kills us. Well, not necessarily. Well, yeah, we do die. Time is a big contributor to the end of our mortal existence, but again, we don't know what happens when we die, and maybe if we do ascend to some other place, is time a construct that we understand? I don't know. Hopefully one day we can all experience that and figure it out for ourselves and be able to send a message down to the people on the earth and they can understand and not have to fear time, or maybe they do have to fear time. Maybe it's one of those things that when we do die and we ascend and we find out that time is not just a construct up there, but some kind of overlord, some kind of, I don't know, keeper that weighs our spirits down, then it would be good to know that I don't know, I've kind of lost the train of thought there, but we all kind of get what I'm getting at there, right? Yeah, we understand that. As mentioned before, the kettle has aged. I've really had to struggle with the acceptance that it is growing old. The taste of the tea does not get affected by its looks. Yes, the paint is chipping off, and yes, there's significant scorch marks, and yes, it does emanate a, let's say, musk. But I remember so vividly going down to my local supermarket. It was a Kmart. I purchased it and I was so excited to come home and put it on the stove top, fill it up with the water, of course, and turn on the heat, use it for that first time, and I've never looked back. Every now and then I worry, though. It's getting old, and although the heat still works and it boils the water effectively and rather quickly, a part of me has struggled with knowing whether or not I should upgrade to get rid of this old thing, and it's hard to come to terms with the passage of time. I remember just like it was yesterday that I bought that kettle, fresh from Kmart, at a reasonable price, of course, taking it home, catching the public transport all the way back to the suburbs that I live, and opening it up, giving it a sniff to really take in that new smell. That smell dissipates over time, and of course it has to. You use the product, you use the kettle, and eventually the new smell fades, but you miss it, you know? You miss it. Over the years, I've had some really bad thoughts. I have considered getting a new kettle. Now that kettle over there works perfectly. It heats up the water. It contains it. The handle is great. The lid works effectively. But the aesthetic of it doesn't please me anymore. It reminds me that time has passed, but do I get rid of a trusted, valuable friend and product because it offends my eyes? Because it reminds me of times gone by? Because I consider whether or not I should upgrade to some new kind of appliance that matches the age? Whether it be an electric one or a kettle that's taller, shorter, rounder, squarer. I struggle daily with whether or not I should throw this old thing out and get a new one, but you've got to stay loyal to your friends. And yes, I know you're saying, Stark, it's a bit silly to think of an inanimate object as your friend, but don't you get attached to locations? Don't you get attached to pieces of clothing like this? I get attached to objects, and it's a silly human condition, I know. I look at this kettle, this nice red kettle. And yes, the red is fading, and yes, the red is chipping off, but it calls to me. Every morning I look at it and I think to myself, gosh, that was a great purchase on your part, Stark. And if I discard it, if I recycle it, if I donate it, that acknowledgement of my choice disappears. And yes, I understand that I would have that exact same feeling with a new kettle. What happens if I get the wrong type of kettle? What happens if I'm burdened with a type of kettle that just doesn't match my soul, my spirit, my essence? Then I won't have the one that I did have that connection with. And if I keep this old kettle and get a new one, then am I hoarding? Am I adding to the societal wasteland by just owning too many objects? Especially during the climate in which we're living right now, in which hoarding is such a prevalent thing. You don't want to add to that, yet you don't want to be left with your trousers hanging down, in which you're surrounded with nothing. I mean, I understand the minimalist art style, and I understand the minimalist way of living, but I just can't do it. You know, I love possessions, I love ownership, and I love that kettle there. Am I being a stupid, sensitive soul? Of course. Of course I am. But I love feeling feelings. Now, we are going to start the tea making process. The first obvious step is to know one's surroundings. So that is the sink that I use, that is the faucet, the tap, those are the knobs, that is the cold, that is the hot. This is the stovetop. As one can see, it is a gas-powered stovetop with many little knobs. Now remember to treat the knobs that you use, if you do have them, gently. You don't want to rip them off and then wait months on end for the repairman to come with the right knob. You don't want that. It's a pain in the neck and or the rear end. And of course, we've had our discussion about the kettle. You've got to have a kettle of some sort. I mean, you could use something like this, but it's not the same now, is it? You have that. You have a thing of sugar. Now, I keep it in a big container these days. I used to have something a little bit more bourgeoisie, but I've gone for just a stock standard approach. Nothing wrong with just having it in something clear, something of a reasonable size, and it just works for me. Over here, of course, we have our drawers. The drawers contain the cutlery. The cutlery is very important. Many people overlook the cutlery in the tea making process and in the process of discussing it in a video format, but the tea is very much needing cutlery, and I have a lovely spoon here. Now, this spoon has a unique personality quirk. You can see that the spoon has a random little nodule of some sort. I don't know what this is for. I don't know what it adds, but if of anything practical, I know it adds personality. It adds sensational, tactile feel. I'm a bit of a fiddler, and when I'm waiting for this thing to boil over here, I like to just rub this. Keeps me calm. Keeps me level-headed, and especially during these times in which it's hard not to fall into an absolute pit of despair, it's good to have a piece of spoonery to keep one sane. So we have that there. Of course, we have our lovely container, a lovely holder of the teas. This is, of course, from Tea2, a very reputable source of teas. So, of course, in there is the tea bags, but I'll make sure to keep that a bit of a specialty towards the end, so that way you can find out as a bit of a reveal of what type of tea I'm going to be drinking today. Mwah! Over here we have my cupboards. This one features the mugs. You may note these are some of the recurring mugs from the previous video and some newcomers. I'm going very simple. I'm going with this yellow, workmanlike mug. It is a hefty mug. The weight of it is fairly decent, but not overbearing in which I feel like I'm lifting a brick. The handle of it is what I really appreciate. I don't know about you avid tea drinkers, but a good handle on a good mug is very much something to behold. What I like is it allows for the 2-finger grip, it allows for, if you're bold, a 3-finger grip, and a 1. It is truly adaptable. The handle is a nice thickness in which if you pour steaming hot water in, the handle doesn't overheat to the point in which if you touch it, you burn yourself or feel like you're not confident enough to hold it. I love mugs, but this is one of those little pet peeves I have in which you have a mug with a weak heat resistance and you're just left there waiting in anticipation for when this is going to cool down, let alone this, enough for you to consume it. And who likes waiting for the tea to cool? I don't, I think you don't, but I don't want to assume anything of your personality. Maybe you use the time for the tea to cool down to do the laundry, to look after your pets and or children, or to relieve oneself in a gentleman's manner, who knows? Now, this next step is an obvious one, but it's an important one to demonstrate within the video. The kettle is empty. I have left it that way so that we can get a first-hand experience of what it's like to fill the water up. I love the sensation on the ears of hearing the water hit the metal, go down, and you get that, you hear it filling up. You hear the lack of an echoey sound emanating from the kettle, and isn't that just orgasmic? I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just a bit of a weirdo, but I love hearing that. Grab your kettle, take it over to wherever you fill it up. I, as mentioned before, have this sink here. I have the tap. Now, this is the cold tap. As mentioned, this is the hot. I took some critical feedback from the last video. I'm going to be filling it up with hot water. That way it won't take as long to heat up on the stove top. If I'm honest, I usually use a cold tap. There's just something within my DNA in which I just reach for that tap first. But for you guys, I'm, in a way, performing for you. Not giving you the realest of stark reality moments, but for the sake of audience appeasal, I am using the hot on this take. Don't you just love it? And there it goes. Wonderful. Of course, pour it out. You don't want to overfill your kettle. It just takes longer. There could be dangers to the situation in which you could spill over the flames and thus ruin the entire tea-making process. Now, grab this, move it over yonder. I like to point the spout to the left. Some people I know like to point it to the right. I guess it could be also which hand you're dominant with, but I am a right-handed person. My countertop is on the left, so it makes sense to go on the left. I know some crazy people like to face it away from them so that they can just walk straight up, grab it, pour it over there. I don't abide by that rule, but you know, and of course, what absolute lunatic would face it towards them? That you just get a face full of steam if you do that. And I mean, who wants steamy face right in the morning? The knobs. Many people ignore the importance of knob usage, but I always say this. We don't know, but it is polite to treat the knob gently, give it a stroke of recognition of its existence. It may or may not actually have feelings in the way that we recognize, but you don't want to just yank it. You want to be gentle, give it a stroke to let it know that it's going to be used, then you push. Mine's a push. Yours may be different. Hear that click? That's saying things are working. And will the fire? There we go. Now, there's the flame. I am struggling to figure out if I did upgrade my kettle electric or analog. The electric is quicker, easier, feels a little less clunky. It has a visual aesthetic to it that is appealing, to say the least. But there's just something about the primal humanist nature of putting the kettle on a stovetop that emits flames. It takes you back to the ancestors. It makes you think, how did cavemen make their cups of tea? Right? Have you ever thought about that? Of course you have. Did they just plug it in? No, they didn't. They had to get on their hands and knees and make a fire. Make a fire that would not only just make a cup of tea, but also make that night's roast meal of whatever variety. Whether they were vegans, I'm not sure. I'm sure that there were plenty of vegan cave people. Of course, I feel bad. I said caveman, cave people. There were obviously cave women and people who identify as other, I'm sure, but colloquially we call them cavemen, but that's not an accurate phrase to use. But the point being made is I think that my heart calls for fire. It's tough, isn't it? Waiting for the kettle to boil, that anticipation of the steam rising and making that glorious high-pitched whining sound. We all want it, we all want to hear it, but we have to wait, and wait we must. I mean, I'm getting thirsty, just absolutely thirsty for this cup of tea, but you've got to wait. I've got to wait. I can't just take it off right now. The water has not been boiled, and we need the water to be boiled to fully experience the tea. But as I wait here for the kettle to boil, I think to myself, wow, this is a moment. This is real. I'm really experiencing something. And there's also the counter to that, where I actually feel time passing me by, and I'm thinking, is this what I'm here for as a human? To stand, to sit, to salivate, to basically be a pawn and a puppet to the constraints of this mortal plane, to this barren earth? I have to wait? But that's patience, isn't it? You have to be patient. Patience is a virtue, some might say, but I say patience as an art form. Art is more fluid than people like to give it credit for. Patience, courage, determination, these are all things that artists have to incorporate into their works. I'm being patient right now. I would want to stop making this video and just go and drink a cup of tea and not bother, but my dedication and my patience to the craft is allowing me to record and allowing me to verbalize the human condition that I'm going through and transmit it into something other. Do you ever think that Napoleon had to wait for the kettle to boil? I do. And there it is. There's that sound. There it goes. The boiling of the kettle has finally come. This is the moment, guys. I'm super excited. Let's... You won't believe this, but my fancy camera's battery died, so I'm gonna have to compromise my artistic freedom, I guess, and use this a phone camera. It's not going to be the same. It's not what I intended. I mean, I wish I could release you the Stark Reality T2 cuts, but that's not gonna happen. This is what we're gonna have to deal with, and I am going to have to just do it like this, I'm afraid. And I know we're all disappointed. I'm disappointed too, but we're just gonna push through this. This is a part of being an artist, though. Part of being an artist is encountering challenges that are unexpected and tackling them to the ground and saying, you're not gonna conquer me, I am gonna conquer you. So we're gonna do this the way that we have to do this. So the kettle is boiled, as we can see. The mug is here, the spoon is here, the sugar is here, the tea is here, but where's the milk? I'll be back. You stay here waiting, okay? Alright. Smells good. So, I am going to be using some light milk for this one, okay? So, look. I used to be a full cream milk type of guy, or girl, or other, but recently my digestive system is calling for a different type of milk. I've thought about doing soy milk, I've thought about doing almond milk, but maybe I need to transition to those by stepping down from the full cream to the light milk. Light milk is a controversial take for tea drinkers, I know, but it's what my body feels it needs, and you just have to respect that my body needs that. For those who were curious, it's kind of lost the vigor now, hasn't it? But I am going to be using a black tea from our good friends over at Lipton. Lipton is a reliable brand of tea. They do the job sufficiently, but also effectively. I like black tea. Why I'm going different from the previous video in which I had something with a little bit of hibiscus, which I really do love hibiscus, but I'm going with the black tea because the black tea is really the artist type of tea, and what I mean by that is it's versatile. Everyone has their ways and etiquettes and schools, approaches, genres of making it. Do you add the milk? How much do you add? Do you add sugar? How much sugar do you have? Do you leave the bag in? Do you take the bag out? How long do you have the bag in there for? And it really reminds me of art school in a lot of ways, in which, say I'm a fan of Cubism. That's a valid art form to pursue, but I can easily move away from Cubism and do photorealism, and that isn't saying that the Cubism is invalid, but it's just another approach. Black tea is very much like the canvas, and the rest of the ingredients are whatever you put on that canvas, whether the milk is a white paint, the actual mug is a glitter of some sort. The sugar, of course, has to be a variant on gold leafing. It's that sweet texture. It's a rich thing to add to the palette, to the canvas. What better way to really show that tea is an art by grabbing the tea that is the most like the form? Things get pretty exciting. My heart's racing. Let's take a moment to appreciate that the water is boiled. It's reached the climax. The kettle did its job. The stovetop did its job. I did my job. In part, I've done my job. But this is where the excitement comes in. We've got our key players. The water in the kettle, the mug it will go into, the spoon that will dispense the sugar, and the milk is going to be in there. Will all of this be added in that sequence of events? Who knows? How much sugar will I put in? How much milk will I put in? If any at all. I'm going to slowly grip this up. Look at that steam. Impressive. Now I am grabbing the kettle gently. Ooh, it's a bit hot. Bit hot. That's why we took that moment of solace. Listen to that. And there we go. Marvelous. Marvelous. We grab the milk. I know. You're shocked. I'm shocked too. I'm shocked too, baby. And we grab it. And I like to just go nice and gentle. And there we go. I don't have an exact measurement, an exact science to the tea and the milk ratio. I know a lot of you tea enthusiasts and physicists out there do, but I don't. I like to give it a little dunk, like that, little dunk. The sugar is being opened, it is being released. Here goes the spoon. Yes! I'm a naughty one! I like more than one spoonful. Yes, I do. And there we go. Now, while the water and the tea brew together to make the perfect concoction, let's take this moment to reflect, to look back at what's been achieved here today. The tea has been made, it is ready to consume, and I'm going to miss doing this, consuming this tea for you. Of course I can make more tea videos, that's not the challenge, but it's more that I'm going to miss this cup of tea. But, like all good things, one must end, and this cup of tea will meet its end right now, and we'll see if it tastes any good. Hopefully it does. Lovely. Well, that's gonna do it for this one. Cheers.